I feel she would smash him.
Like that, like just
I feel she would smash him to try to keep it in the family or something like that.
5, 4, 3 all the way. Then we got to one finger salute. We have Caffeine Controversy, the podcast.
And welcome to episode 3 of Caffeine Controversy with your hosts, Levi and Cara. I go by Big Fluff, she by PGP. Follow us on our IGs. Didn't mean for it to rhyme, but it did. I got bars. And speaking of bars, we're going to talk about some people that are known for spitting bars. It's something that's really popular right now, and that is boy bands and BS. And we were watching some BS on some boy bands. Shouts out to Joey Fatone for producing it. But what was it called?
Boy Band Confidential.
All right, Boy Band Confidential. If anybody's like me, they remember the Confidential series on HBO where they had the Skinamax. But this was not that type of thing. There was some Skinamax type of moments, but not that type of thing. But tell me about it, because you were a boy band princess. You started out as a Backstreet Boy fan. Then you obviously switched over to NSYNCs, and then you had some great appreciation probably for the other boy bands. Thoughts? What did you think about it? Tell us a little bit about it. Give us a backstory, because this was your childhood.
It was. So I was very much the pop music, like the hope of romance, you know, that they sell with these songs kind of thing. I did have the Backstreet Boy album first, listen to them, but that NSYNC Disney concert, like they mentioned in Boy Band Confidential, Backstreet Boys didn't want to do it. NSYNC took the opportunity, and that concert switched me over, that I was an NSYNC fan, a Justin Timberlake girl, which, looking back at my dating history, not including this relationship, is problematic, and Justin kind of fits right in with that.
Yeah, because all that stuff he went through with Britney Spears and the Schmishmorshans. Yeah, because there's a lot of that stuff that was going on there. But we're going to talk about more of, was it Lou Pearlman? Yeah,
so Lou Pearlman basically created both bands.
Yeah.
Started with the Backstreet Boys at first, manufactured them by picking the random guys. A couple are related that we know, but then friends, and they put together this group.
Basically, for people who don't know, he was like the Vince McMahon of boy bands.
Sure.
Seriously, he really was. He was the Vince McMahon of boy bands. He literally carbon created a lot of the industry from that point in time. He saw how things worked. He then was like, you know what, let's breed competition. I'm going to have NSYNC and Backstreet Boys, and I'm going to create beef, because beef and controversy, as we saw later on in life, it leads into sales and making the moolah, the dollar bill, y'all.
Yeah, so he basically created both groups, but of course lied about it. Like was telling Backstreet Boys that like he wasn't in on the NSYNC stuff. He wasn't doing another group, and then it came out he was. And not only was he doing another group, he took them through the exact same steps of Germany first and releasing these songs and like 5 members. Like it was literally a carbon copy kind of thing, and
he did other groups.
He did other groups after NSYNC even. Like, he just kept up going through this. Part of the reason he was so problematic is he was, like, triple dipping on the money of these bands by making himself, like, a group member in the contracts and taking part of the merch sales and the tour sales and, like, everything that made money he took a percentage of.
And trying to get sexual favors from the boys, too.
That was where I was heading next. And so not only was he stripping them of money, he was literally trying to get them to strip and to do things for them, and like
corn on the cob.
Like looking back, because again, during this time I was very naive, sheltered Christian school. Like, I didn't see that like pervy side of things coming from him. I saw it as like, you know, he's taking the money that they're earning. And like, because also that's a lot of what the media put out there. Mm-hmm. They kept the sexual abuse side of things very hush hush, especially in terms of with NSYNC and Backstreet Boys.
Yeah.
even in this documentary, they don't mention out of those two groups who he was going after. Where every other group he's worked with, he's had one member he's favored, and they've talked to them. Like Ashley Parker Angel from O-Town? Yeah, I think O-Town.
O-Town, I think, yeah.
And the guy from LFO.
LFO, yeah.
And so, like, they all talked, but the two big groups of Backstreet Boys and NSYNC, they did not mention which member he was going after. Now, I don't know if that's part of the lawsuits that they've done, that they've kept it hush-hush.
I was going to say, because sometimes they do that, where they put these clauses in when they want to keep it hush-hush, just for the simple fact that it could be more damaging for the person's PR after the fact, because none of them really want that expose piece that's done about them. I mean, it was a really big deal when, even though everybody knew, when Lance came out, right?
Yeah.
And not saying that, but this is the thing, is like, that's just him exposing his private life of his preferences. Imagine somebody talking about something that was involuntarily put on them as being a victim. Especially with boys or men, like, it's supposed to be portrayed as that couldn't happen to me. Yeah. Like, only women get abused. Like, a boy or a man is supposed to be able to fight that off and make sure it doesn't happen. So, like, when these two groups were presented as, like, what boys or men should be and wanted at the time, they're not going to do anything to damage that, like, image of that. So I understand why. But it just goes to show that, like, that so many systems fail children. Oh, yeah, 1,000%. Like, we didn't need a documentary to see that. I mean, there's so many, like, child custody things where it's like you don't understand how, like, they are parents in general. But a lot of people have kids just to create checks, just so that way they can continue to get paid so they don't have to work. But then they also wind up, for lack of a better term, pimping out their children to create boy bands or create entertainers. I mean, you see this with a lot of the Disney kids, the Nickelodeon kids. I mean, what was the other documentary that came out with, like, so what was it? It was everywhere, like, last year.
I don't remember what it was called.
Behind the scenes, behind the set,
something like that.
But it was everywhere, and everyone was talking about it. It's like these child stars are really getting pimped out, and now we're seeing it really with YouTube. Is that a lot of child stars are getting really, like, pushed out there and not getting their money or residuals or anything like that because they don't have to claim it. It actually goes to the parent or something like that. So you see those things that happen more and more, you know?
Also, like, there's abuse that comes off not looking like abuse. A lot of these boy band members didn't have a father figure. So he portrayed himself as that at first, and I think it let the moms put their guards down of, like, my boy finally has a man to look up to, and one that's rich and successful and doing all this stuff for himself. But then behind the scenes, even away from the mothers, is when he's, like, opening his robe and being like, you know, or, like, he was taking them overseas, the one group, and he was like, that record label guy is going to expect you to do this. You can practice on me. What?
And I mean, it's one of those crappy moments where, again, a figure of authority is taking advantage of somebody who is vulnerable. That's what predators do. They scrap up on people that are vulnerable. I mean, and it's regardless of, somebody will say, oh, they're 15, they're 16, they're 17. By law, they're children. Like, there's, like, discussing this, like, even, like, Russell Brand just came out and said, like, he had, like, relations with a 16-year-old girl, but in London, that's the age of consent. It's like, bro, that's still gross. She's not mentally developed. And then, like, you're a grown man, you're 32.
He was 30 at the time it happened, I think he said.
So it's like, bro, like, you're taking advantage of somebody because of what they feel and how they are, and, you know, they're immature within certain things. Like, you're still, even though and this is the thing, technically it is legal where you're from, but it's predatory.
The fact that he knew, too, like, like, he had, like, I got my bases covered. It's legal here. You can't say shit. Thing is, with that one member of the group that I had never heard of before, the Forever in Your Heart or something. Though manager or the one female assistant or whatever that got him to open up about his abuse then turns around and starts dating him, and they're now engaged. He's 20 something and she's 28, so she's older than him. But like,
it was, and we're looking at it at a different point of view, right? When she met him, he was still legally a child.
Yeah.
When they started dating and stuff like that, he is legally an adult. So, in legally an adult, like, there's an 8-year gap or something like that. Like, I hate to sound like that guy, but like, in terms of egregiousness, like, that's minimal. I think the thing that's more egregious within that fact, more than the age gap, is the fact that she's preying on his vulnerability to take advantage of that. Like, you were comfortable with me, be with me.
Yeah.
Because if the roles were reversed, everybody be looking at the man like, what the hell is your problem?
Yeah, and like, there might not be anything wrong with their relationship. It might be legit, because I know,
I will say it wasn't presented well in the documentary.
it wasn't. It was presented to be kind of like, keep this in mind. You know, they don't say it as anything wrong, but it's kind of the way they edited and threw it in was like, we don't necessarily approve of this. These are some facts you should know.
Yeah.
But like I said, there could be nothing wrong. It could be legit that they were bonding and fell for each other.
Yeah.
It just seems weird, because I've known people since children that are now legally adults, and my thoughts on them has never changed from like, they hit 18, I could do what I want with them. Like, it's never switched. It's still like, this is little so-and-so.
Yeah.
And so, like, it's just weird to me, and I know this is my own personal opinion, but, like, it's just weird that, like, all of a sudden, as they're being their most vulnerable about horrific abuse to them, now suddenly, like, you see them.
Yeah. It was just presented poorly. Like,
It really was.
I think that's probably more the hang-up to me, like, it was presented poorly, because it was, like, at a point of vulnerability that he was at, that she kind of swooped in and took advantage of it for capital gain.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, I don't know one record that they've produced or created. Like, if they would have had, like, what was that popular one back in the day that Harry Styles was a part of? Or band or group?
One Direction.
Yeah, that thing. If they would have had one of those people on there, then that would have made sense.
Yeah.
I've never heard of this Forever in My Heart thing.
Well, they came out in 2013. I had a almost 5-year-old, and
I was in these streets.
yeah.
I would love for them to do like a expose of, like, it was really the Korean boy bands.
Yeah.
There's got to be some wild stuff behind the scenes with those groups. I mean, like, I understand like strict things, but like, and they seem like they have like a lot of I's dotted and T's crossed, but I would love to see like the stuff behind the scenes with them.
Yeah.
Because that stuff just seems like it would be extremely out of pocket. Also, those boy bands had to be getting cheeks. Like, seriously, on them roads, cheeks.
Yeah.
If they were monopolizing some things, like straight clapping. I mean, Justin was wifed up with Miss Britney Spears, also known as the Knife Chef Guru.
Yeah, I mean, but he also seems like he was problematic, and so who knows how.
Yeah. Lance Bass had his boyfriend.
Yeah.
Joey Fatone, really, you don't really see him.
Joey Fatone.
And shout out to him, because like he did his thing on that.
Yeah.
I felt like the only thing, like we said, the only thing I wish was probably presented a little bit different was the other guy's relationship. I think other than that, it was presented and done very well.
Yeah, it was really good. Joey had a girlfriend for like most of NSYNC, or a good chunk of NSYNC, and I know that she had gotten pregnant during that time, because that was a big like, oh, they're not married, and she's like, kind of thing with the tabloids and shit.
Yeah.
But so he was like, locked down, committed. He ended up marrying her, and they had another daughter.
And they got divorced, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, he was incredibly nice when I met him. Him and Chris both were like.
Chris, who's 83 years old. All jokes aside, like I actually like him.
Yeah.
He's just older. Who cares? Yeah.
I think too what bothers me, and this kind of ties back to the R. Kelly stuff from like the previous episode that we did. All the people in the camp that knew this was going on and hush hush because
money.
Yeah. Like that's just like
money is the root of all evil. Like that's an old statement, but it's true. Money is the root of all evil. It's the biggest necessity that we have as individuals that we know will ruin us.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people need drugs for pain management. A lot of them don't, but they will partake on them because it makes them feel good. But it's an evil, right? People prey on people's mental health, like we were talking about earlier in the other relationship. Was that a prey on mental health for the weak mind of the vulnerable mind and soul of that kid? Right? Was that a prey on? So that's why we think about that. But money is a high necessity, especially when you don't have it.
Yeah.
And especially when you're in a position where you can make it and make it hand over fist and almost to a point where you could print money.
Yeah.
Like they were at a point where they were printing money.
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, do I let my ethics and morals outweigh my cash flow? Or do I know that, hey, they signed up for this, so they got to be ready to deal with all the smoke? So at the end of the day, like that's the question that people ask, because this is the thing. They at one point, whether they be through mature mind or immature mind, above 18 or not, said they would like to do this. I would love to have, and granted, a lot of their parents now, because their our ages are dead, talk to the parents. How many of them are associated with their parents? That's a good question. I wish it would be a documentary, a parent of a boy band.
Yeah. I get that, like, you know, they signed up for this, but you can't tell me they signed up to be sexually abused.
No, they didn't.
So, like, when it crosses, they're skimming money, they're taking more money than they should. Like, you know that shady shit could happen, but like, none of these parents signed the contract saying, I think this should be I mean, other than the original fifth member of NSYNC that pulled out because he didn't like how the contract was.
Yeah. And now he's the smartest guy probably out of that group. He's making money with total anonymity.
Yeah.
I hope I pronounced that right.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But like the other side of like the spectrum of like, did the parents know, not know situation, we then have all of the reality TV shows like Unexpected that the parents have to sign off on these pregnant teens being on the show at the idea of like, well, they'll make some money. This will help because they don't have any job or skill sets.
Yep.
I mean, especially with that one group where he was 12 when he got her pregnant.
Yeah.
12.
Yeah.
In the show, he talks about how he has to leave the hospital after she had the baby to go to school because he's missed too many days or he won't be able to finish the 8th grade.
Yeah.
8th grade.
Yeah, and that's because the mom is a terrible mom.
The mom, like, seems checked out or on something for a huge part of it. They portray it that the dad is a deadbeat and, like, that he canceled meeting up with him.
He just didn't want to be on the show. The
dad didn't want to be on the show and had told Hunter that, like, I don't want to do this. I think, like, having this baby, like, is going to ruin your life. Which I'm sure as a parent and a grandparent now, part of him regrets saying that. Because, like, once you meet the baby and you get attached, like, you feel bad saying shitty things.
Yeah.
But to a degree, having a child at 13...
He's not wrong.
...is... Especially when you can't get to school already.
Yeah.
You missed 30-some days, 47.
Yeah.
And then 37 a separate year. Like.
Yeah. Bad parenting all around.
And then the mother of the girl he got pregnant is incredibly inappropriate with him.
I feel she would smash him.
Like that, like just
I feel she would smash him to try to keep it in the family or something like that.
Like just so inappropriate. Like
Yeah.
she bought him a cell phone that she tracks and keeps location on, and like texts him and messages him, and like she checks on Hunter more than she checks on her daughter, and tells her daughter like, you can't break up with him. If you break up with him, you're breaking up two families. And like the odds of them staying together at 14 and 12 or like
slim and none.
And so like it's not going to be long term, and like she's just so creepily inappropriate with him and allows them to be way too physical way too often. Like granted, we know they've like had sex because she's pregnant at 14, but they come home from having the baby and she's about to have her first shower at home after having a C-section. And the mom's like, oh, Hunter's going to shower with you? Okay. No. First of all, he's a scrawny 13-year-old. If she faints in that first shower, he's not going to be able to catch her or help her.
Yeah.
Second of all, he talks just like how he's like, he has to have sex all. Like, I get it, he's a 13-year-old boy. But, like, the ability to like turn it off and like be normal for a moment doesn't seem there.
Yeah.
It hints at that he was abused. Like it's never been mentioned, but it hints to like somebody that's been abused, so they're hypersexual.
Yeah.
Especially at that young of an age.
Yeah.
And like there's no way. If the boy knocked somebody up and they were coming to the house to like take the first shower afterwards, if her parent wasn't around to assist and it was like, I will help you. You're not in, like, they were just, like, they had a conversation about how they waited 4 days after having the baby before they had sex again. 4 days. You're supposed to wait 6 weeks, and she had
6 to 8.
And she had a C-section.
Yeah, so she could have ripped those stitches.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bad parenting.
Yeah, like I mean,
where are they from? West Virginia?
Alabama.
Oh, same thing.
Or Arkansas. One of the
really same thing.
Yeah. One of the, but like the mother just got arrested. Like her mother just got arrested on 420 for going to Hunter's dad's house and causing a huge scene because they wouldn't let him have the phone that she bought in tracks.
Yeah.
And his mom called the cops for a welfare check the following day because they wouldn't let him have his Xbox. He is already missed 35 days of school, might not pass the 8th grade.
Yeah.
Or maybe 9th now. I don't know timeline.
Probably 9th grade now, yeah.
And she's upset because they won't let him have he shouldn't have the Xbox.
No, he
should have a room with no door, no cell phone, no Xbox till he gets his grades up and gets his sleep going so he's at school.
Like seriously, he's at a point right now he should just be institutionalized prison because that's what they're breeding him to go to. And then it's going to be like, my baby daddy's locked up and I still hold him down. Put your hand on the glass and touch your daddy.
Yeah. So his dad was just awarded emergency full custody. So, and then the dad is also trying to get emergency custody of the grandson to get him out of that environment.
Yeah. Well, good job for him. He's being a good dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like just, I feel like so much in not just the news, but in entertainment is about exploiting people that can't defend themselves.
Can't defend themselves or can't make logical decisions.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's the thing is like, if you look at the generational gap of intelligence, right? A lot of people like scam other people. Like my generation is a generation of scammers. Like we lie, cheat, steal, like pure Eddie Guerrero type stuff, right? But they will do whatever they can to get over on people, and they know this generation has no social skills or social cues, right?
Yeah.
So they try to get over on them, right? So they take advantage of it, and so I feel like the mom both moms are trying to use their children to gain fame that they desperately want.
Yeah.
So they really are exploiting their children on the highest level so that way they can get famous, and not really caring about their children, not really caring about their welfare, not caring about their grandchildren. Like, again, and they seem like people that have had their children to just make money. I mean, one of the movies that just came out was the Michael Jackson story.
Yeah.
And we all know Joe beat the hell out them kids.
Yeah.
Joe beat he beat the black off of Michael. You know that for sure. He beat the black off of Michael. Took Michael from original recipe to undercooked chicken. He went from brother to Puerto Rican real quick. You know that, and I know that. That man he went from Afro to S curl, and from A baby to San Juan. But Joe beat the hell out them kids for sure. He beat them all the way to fame. Don't get me wrong. That backhand was strong. He beat them boys all the way to fame. And who wasn't from? Let's be serious. Them kids. You talk about trauma. Look at LaToya Jackson and tell me she ain't got a problem.
Oh, she's the one that looks like a skeleton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Her. Then I think the older brother Jermaine. That boy's hair is spray painted on. It ain't even real no more. You tell me that ain't trauma. Like, look. And then you got one. You named Mike. You know you wrong for this. You named your baby Jafar. Or whose baby? Who's the father of Jafar?
I think Jermaine.
Is it Jermaine?
Michael has Blanket.
Yeah, Blanket. Look, you already know. Jafar, Blanket, Buttons, whoever.
Isn't there like Jamajesty too or something?
There's a whole bunch of stuff. But look, the generation is and because like I know a whole lot of people named Alexis that look like a Buick. But all I'm saying is take care of your kids, folks. Take care of your kids. There's a lot of stuff that's going on in here. If your kid wants to go out there and make money, at least have your own child, something that came from you in you have their best interest at hand. If you can't have their best interest at hand, you are a terrible person. And you, at the end of the day, you have one obligation, that's to take care of your child.
Yeah. And if you're going to let them go into some form of like performing arts, whether it's acting or music or whatever, you need to make it your job that you are on set.
Yeah.
You are around. Like, until they're 18 and they're like, I don't want you here, and they can legally put into place that you can't, you need to be there and not give the predators the opportunity to brainwash and drive a wedge and have that moment where it's like, look, I saw you really eyeing my Lambo. If you want one yourself, you just gotta, because kids are dumb.
We were dumb.
And kids will barter for like the worst deals.
Yeah.
Like the worst deals.
I mean, there's a lot of stupid kids.
Yeah.
Long story short, people, there's a lot of lows that should have been swallowed.
Oh my God.
And that's been another episode of Caffeine Controversy. I've been your host, Levi. Then we got Cara over here. Stay tuned. We'll be back next Monday for our new episode. We appreciate y'all. Follow us on all the Instawebs. We are out.
Make sure you follow us on all platforms, you misfits. And just remember, caffeine is first. The filter is never.